which means it exists as merely labeled after you understood its ultimate truth. And there's a difference between existing conventionally and being a conventional truth, right? There's a slight difference. Okay? Being an object other than emptiness means it's a conventional truth. Being an object other. So unless you know emptiness, you don't know what it means to be an object other than emptiness. To be conventionally existent means you realize that it's merely labeled. That you can also just realize after you realize emptiness. So once you've realized emptiness directly, you can know both truth. Okay? The variety of phenomena, understanding them as mere appearances, merely labeled, but you can also understand their actual final nature. That is not at the same time. You can...
you know both, but not at the same time.
Not with one mind. Not with one mind. One mind can only switch back and forth. Only a Buddha can know them simultaneously. Okay. But nonetheless, we know it with two minds, you know it. Right? I mean, we know the Four Noble Truths. You know blue and white. But not with one mind. First you know blue, and then you know white. So you know blue and white. Okay? Yeah. Okay. The seventh quality is the quality of the truth of cessation. For the Dharma is infused with the very characteristic of the true truth. This is part of the Uttara Tantra. So the seventh quality is the quality of the truth of cessation, because the Dharma refers to the truth of cessation and the truth of the path. So one of them is the truth of cessation, and then the other one is the truth of the path. So this means that the Dharma is either a truth of cessation or a truth of the path, and the truth of cessation in turn is that which is free from attachment. This is just trying to explain the Uttara Tantra, which is saying it is that which is freed from attachment. What I said or what he said? What I said. What I said, Ale. Okay, this is just the awkward way of, okay. All right, this is... You're really tired. I think you're tired, and I'm not good at explaining now, and I'm not getting it. Okay, it's just saying this. Forget about what it says here. Look at the verse. It is that which is freed from attachment, that which frees from attachment. Those are two qualities, right? It is that which is freed from attachment, and is that which frees from attachment. The Dharma is imbued with the very characteristic of the true truth. Okay? Here the true truth refers to the cessation and the path. So the Dharma refers to one of the two. It is either the cessation, the ultimate cessation, the nirvana, or is the conventional, which is the mind. Okay? The mind, the truth of the path. So cessation is that which is freed from attachment, and the path is that which frees from attachment. That's what it says. So it's only confusing because I used the last sentence. I said the seventh quality is the quality of the truth of cessation. Why? Because the Dharma is one of the two, a cessation or a path. And here we're talking about the cessation, which is that which is free from attachment. It's just confusing the way I put it. This is literally translated from the general meaning, which I try to not do all the time. Here I did it because it was clear to me. So I wrote it down this way. But basically, we're still saying, you see, the way we study this is we take a verse and we try to understand it. Because all you need to do is memorize this verse. That's what we did. In order to remember these 8 qualities, okay, and I need to tell you, in Tibetan it sounds much nicer than in English. It's just the Tibetan, that's just the verses were written. You remember I told you, they are artisan emanations. Which means, not only do the Buddhas oftentimes manifest as artists, but the great masters, even as bodhisattvas, if they're bodhisattvas, they manifest these qualities of being great artists. So great artist means poets. Poets means, like texts such as the Uttara Tantra, or for instance, Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara. entry into the middle way. Even if you don't understand a word, if I read it to you, it sounds nice. It sounds really nice. It's not just the meter, but it's also how the words are sometimes used. They don't rhyme. Is that the right word? They don't rhyme. They don't have rhyme. But they use these words as in like, and so you see, like it has this rhyme to it. It sounds nice, doesn't it sound nice? So then you can memorize it easily. And so, no, it really, seriously, you don't forget it. If it sounds nice, like a nice song, you can easily memorize a song, right? So I tell you, there are certain texts, I think Maitreya's Ornament for Clear Realizations is hard to memorize. It doesn't sound as nice as Chandrakirti's entry into the middle way. It's just, even just for an ordinary person, it's kind of easier to keep these words, to remember these words. That's the whole reason we're doing this. So we take, in order for us to remember what the 3 jewels refer to, we try to remember the 8 qualities. To remember the 8 qualities, you memorize 3 verses. One is the verse, the previous one, and so for that every word is explained, and then later on, all you need to do is memorize the verse, and then if you may not remember, it's really funny how the mind works. You have to recite it yourself from memory, and then look at the words, and you go, it's this, right? Okay, when I say, for instance, if you ask me, is it 천남기 or sunamgi? And if I usually don't think about it, say, wait a minute. 천남기. Right? This is how you do it. It's kind of like your notebook. Right? That's how memorization works. So the memorization is really done, that is there when you need it. Okay? So that's why we're doing this. I'm trying to explain every word here so that you understand the meaning of the verse. Even if it sounds terrible in English, you may still want to memorize it.
Maybe I blacked out, but the 6th quality, did we talk about it? The aspect of an antidote?
Pardon?
Did we speak about the 6th quality?
The 5th quality, the 6th quality. Sorry, I forgot that, you're right. So, the 4th quality is that it's pure. The mind of a Buddha is pure, as in that, the mind that realizes phenomena as they really are, it's pure. Pure in the sense it's not affected by, it's not contaminated by the misperception of reality, because it's the mind that perceives reality. Does that make sense? Yes? The first 3 concern the cessation. The next 3 concern the mind that realizes reality. That is not affected when we say contaminated versus pure. Right? Those words. Contaminated karma, pure. Contaminated means affected by the misapprehension of reality. Pure means not affected by it. Why? Because it realizes the opposite. It's not affected by holding on to inherent existence, because it realizes the lack of inherent existence. Right? So, secondly, it can know, therefore, since it knows the ultimate truth, it can then a moment later also know conventional truth. It can know both truth. And thirdly, it's an antidote. It's an antidote to what? It's an antidote to attachment. It is that which frees from attachment. That's why we generate the understanding of emptiness. We only do it because it's an antidote to suffering. It's the vacuum cleaner. It's the mind that eliminates everything that's to be eliminated. So when we said that the cessation of suffering is possible, that Buddhahood is only about getting rid of that which is extra. Okay? We need to get rid of that which is extra. Which means we need to have a word for describing the state once you have eliminated that which is extra. What's the word? Cessation. But we know the Buddhas cannot take it from us. It's not like the Buddha takes his mind and kind of, you're a Buddha. Wouldn't it be nice? No, we ourselves have to develop the mind that realizes the actual nature of phenomena, emptiness. And then that mind kind of sucks it up itself. I mean, not literally sucks it up, but eliminates all the afflictive emotions. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So that's why it's an antidote. So therefore, Maitreya says, freedom from attachment consists of cessations and truth of the path. Accordingly, these should also be known by 3 qualities each. Okay? So freedom, so we have the 3 qualities, the first 3 in terms of cessation, the path, 3 qualities. Okay? So, the sun serves as an analogy for the truth of the path because the sun is naturally purified of darkness. Here, Maitreya says that these 3 are like the sun, pure and so forth. So initially it talks about cessations, and then it mentions the truth of the path, which are pure and so forth, pure, luminous, and antidotes because they're like the sun. So the analogy is given, it's very poetic, it's given like the sun. The mind that realizes how phenomena really exist. It shines a light on the darkness of ignorance. So there's always this analogy they use. Ignorance is like darkness, right? The darkness, we use that in English too. It's kind of like obstructed by the darkness of not knowing or ignorance, what have you. So here the analogy is like the sun is like, the understanding is wisdom, and the sun is naturally purified of darkness. The sun is naturally free from darkness. In the same way, the wisdom realizing emptiness is naturally pure. It's not affected by the darkness of ignorance. Its rays produce luminosity, so this mind leads to the clear understanding of conventional and ultimate truth in the way the sun illuminates all objects around it, and it eliminates darkness in different places. So it serves as an antidote, and wherever the sun shines in, although it was previously dark, now it removes it. Right? Or maybe it's the bleach. Bleach is naturally free from dirt, number 1. It's clear. It's kind of clear fluid. And it removes dirt wherever you put it. Okay? Bleach works better. Right? Bleach itself is free from the impurities that it purifies. You know, it shows, you put it somewhere, you can still see the dirt, you can still see through it. So basically it helps you to see where you need to apply it and where not. And lastly, it eliminates those spots that are dirty. So if you want to use bleach instead of the sun, less poetic, take bleach. But I'm trying to just convey this idea, right? So then you have the nature or the meaning of the Sangha jewel. It's an Arya being who possesses any of the 8 qualities such as knowledge, release, and so forth. And again, you have these very poetic, not so poetic English, since they have pure perception of the mode of existence, of the varieties of the inner wisdom, and since they are wise, the assembly who never regress have unsurpassable qualities. And again, you have 3 qualities, which is that knowledge, and then 3 qualities which refer to the cessation they've attained. So an understanding, they've attained the Dharma jewel. So 1 is here the knowledge, that which frees from attachment, and the cessation, which is their release. So it's really like saying they have the 3 qualities, they have the qualities of the Dharma, divided into cessations and path. Okay? So the first quality is that the Sangha jewel has pure perception of the ultimate mode of existence. So they have the truth of the path that realizes all phenomena. The second is not only do they have the mind that realizes the ultimate truth, they also have the mind that realizes the conventional truth, the variety of phenomena. Okay? So in other words, knowing that they're merely labeled, that these objects, of course they exist, just not ultimately. That is, they're only conventionally existent. So a Sangha, the mind of a Sangha person, of someone who's an Arya being, knows that. And the third quality is that the Sangha jewel has pure direct perception of the inner wisdom. The inner wisdom refers to our Buddha nature. right? And Buddha nature, you also have Hira nature and solitary realized nature, right? Obviously, because not only do we have the potential to become Buddhas, we have the potential to become Hiras or solitary realizers, right? So an Arya being, here in particular, they know about the potential to become a Buddha. They know the nature of the mind, they know the emptiness of the mind, and so basically they know it's possible, okay? In the case of someone who only focuses on the goal of liberation, they know that this is possible, liberation is possible, but in the case of a Mahayana, like a Bodhisattva Arya, definitely know Buddha nature. Okay? And also some Hiras and solitary realizers may be aware of it, it's just not their interest to become Buddhas, but they're very much aware that this is possible. So that's the third quality. Now that refers to their Dharma jewel, like their mind, the pure mind that they have, the understanding of reality. And the fourth quality is being free from obstructions of attachment. So that refers to their cessations, so being free of afflictive obscurations. Then the Sangha jewel in the case of, so actually not all Sangha have those qualities here, because the first one is here obstructions, that is obstructions of attachment or afflictive obscurations. They're free from afflictive obscurations, obstructions of attachment. Then the second is they're free from obstructions of obscurations, which are cognitive obscurations. And the last one is another type of obscurations that can be interpreted in two ways. Either it means being free from a mind that merely aspires to attain self-liberation. That is actually not an obscuration as such, but it is an obstruction in relation to the wish to become a Buddha. It can be, if you want to just become liberated, self-liberated, that can serve as an obstacle to you wanting to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So actually it's something positive to want to become self-liberated. But in relation to someone aiming to become fully enlightened, it could be an obstacle. So here it is seen as an obscuration. But some people explain another type of obscuration. They say that common obscurations here means a certain type of obscuration to shamatha. To shamatha, calm abiding. Right? So this is a different kind of obscuration, because I think it more refers to the obscuration to shamatha, which means it's not an afflictive obscuration, and it's not a cognitive obscuration. So you can get rid of this particular obscuration without being an arhat. Okay? Without being an arhat. So therefore it's kind of mentioned separately. It's like in order to generate what's called shamatha, or calm abiding, you're aware of what calm abiding shamatha means, right? It's the ability to concentrate with great clarity and intensity, and with great intensity and stability on one object for 4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours. That's not 4 minutes. No, 4 hours. That's possible. The mind can actually attain that kind of state, yeah?
I thought, and I came to another question, the same thing. If all those things we take refuge in, yeah, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, they are divided each of them has like 8 characteristics. Something, and we depend on them till enlightenment, because it says,
Yes.
but till enlightenment, some of those characteristics are things that we, in a certain time, we eliminate.
No.
Like what they have, like they eliminated the afflicted obscurations.
No. Okay, I'll say it again. Those 8 qualities are basically, if you take the Dharma jewel, you can take 2 particular qualities with regard to the Dharma jewel, the Buddha jewel. You take 2 qualities, and then each of those 2 has 3 characteristics, so that you have 6 altogether, right? So it's basically dividing the Buddha's quality into 2 divisions, dividing them into 2, and then describing 3 characteristics of each of those 2. You end up having 6. And then with 7 and 8, it helps you with 7 and 8, it gives you another characteristic that the first 3 have in common, and the last 3 have in common. Does that make sense? It kind of just shows you how you can divide those 2 up. That's with regard to the Buddha jewel. But the Dharma jewel is the same. You take the Dharma jewel, you divide it into 2. Okay? Then each of those 2, you ascribe them 3 characteristics. And then with number 7 and number 8, you're basically saying first 3 belong to this category, last 3 into this category. Okay. And then you do with this the Sangha jewel. That's a very weird way of dividing things up. We're not used to it. It's this, and end of story. Or qualities. We talk about qualities, you have a list of 8 and that's it. This is slightly unusual. It's saying you can divide the Arya jewel into those 2 aspects. Their understanding of reality and their cessations. And then you talk about 3 types each. And again say, well, we spoke about number 7 and 8, then say the first 3 are this category and the next 3 are this category. That's all. That's all, right? And so these are all qualities that the Buddha has those first 8. The Buddha has the first 8. The Dharma has those 6. And some Arya beings have all 6, and some Arya beings have some of them. Okay? Does that make sense? So it's unusual. It's an unusual way of learning this, but this is how it's presented in the Tibetan tradition. And because it is difficult, you have to pay more attention, and it gives you a kind of thorough understanding because it addresses so many aspects. Yeah, sometimes I wished it would just be easy and straightforward, but in this case it just isn't. Right? Because it's Uttara Tantra, it's Maitreya's text, which mainly talks about Buddha nature. Maitreya's text is mainly on Buddha nature. And besides that, it talks about what the 3 jewels are. Does that make sense? Wait, do you want to say something? Pardon?
I didn't understand the connection between aspiration to Shanta.
Okay. It just mentions another type of obscuration that certain sanghas are rid of, right? So there's mentions a further one that usually isn't mentioned. So one is the obscuration to liberation, or the afflicted ones. The other one is the obscuration to enlightenment, or the cognitive ones, and then mentions a further obscuration that keeps us from having shamatha. Okay, so it's just mentioned. For some reason, Maitreya felt that was important. Radha? No, there wasn't. Okay.
So it's same point.
Same point.
The shamatha.
Mm-hmm.
In the Mahayana path,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the Sattva reached the union of shamatha and insight meditation before path of seeing. So you can't have, if he is a member of the Sangha, is it different in the path of the hearers and solitary realizer?
No, it's the same. You have to get rid of that obscuration in order to be on the...
So before you are member of the Sangha.
That's true, but it's not saying that when you're free from that obscuration, you're an Arya being. It's saying an Arya being has to be free from that. An Arya being needs to be free from those obscurations. It's not saying if you're free of those, you're an Arya being.
Of course, if you're Arya, you're free from it. So how can it be? How can the second option, the second suggestion of obscuration, be of shamatha? If you're a member of Sangha, you're already free of this obscuration. Didn't you
Yes, you are, but that's what I'm saying. Here Maitreya is not saying if you're free from that, you're an Arya being. When you're an Arya being, you have to be free from that. So the 3 types of obscurations, right? So you definitely have to be free from the last obscuration. And some, you need with the afflictive obscurations, when you're an Arya being, you're free from some of the afflictive obscurations, or all of them. Or you're free from some of the cognitive obscurations, or all of them. Right? So some of them you always have to be free. You have to be totally free from the, if that's the interpretation, but that's what I believe it is, you have to be free from the obscurations to shamatha. Single-pointedly, for remaining single-pointedly focused on a particular object. Right? Common obstructions refer to obstructions to meditative stabilization. So you can actually, because it's not clearly explained, you could also say that shamatha is not the end of it, actually. You can deepen that, you can take it further. I'm not sure, it doesn't say that, but it could also mean that not only do you have to get rid of the obstructions to shamatha, but even other obscurations, because with shamatha you're only able for 4 hours. Only 4 hours. But then 8 hours, 10 hours. I mean, you deepen all these qualities further and further. Okay, so that could also be, but here I'm just voicing my own opinion.
So,
Yes?
actually, all those qualities you achieve when you become light.
Exactly.
Okay, so all those the things that you depend on in the refuge, till when you become enlightened, you become all those.
Exactly. And at some point we learn that refuge is like a boat. That at some point you have to leave it behind at that point. Mm-hmm.
But then you start with the age of the Sangha and then the Dharma and then the Buddha. Would that be right?
When you say you start, you mean like start practicing, start learning.
Start in the past, in the bhumi, in achieving, in practicing. You start from the age of the Sangha or the age of the Dharma or the age of the Buddha.
Start practicing, you mean, or attaining them.
Attaining them.
What do you think? What do you achieve first? The Dharma, in the strictest sense, or the Arya, or the Buddha? You know the answer to that.
Okay, then I heard, and that's what I said. We started the Sangha, then the Dharma, and then...
Wait. Do you start with the Sangha? Do you achieve the state of being a Sangha first, or do you achieve the Dharma in your continuum first?
So maybe the Dharma.
Do you achieve the Dharma first? You achieve the Dharma, so you achieve the Dharma before you achieve the state of an Arya? It's simultaneously.
But that was my question in the beginning.
Well,
In which path and in which bhumi do we do all those stages?
well, I mean, okay. When is the first bhumi? When is the first bodhisattva bhumi? You all remember? Maybe all of you, some of you, that once you reach a certain level as a bodhisattva, you enter the first bhumi. And there's 10 bhumis. Okay, say it. What did you say? What did you, I thought you answered that question. When do you reach the first bodhisattva bhumi? Path of seeing. Path of seeing. The first bhumi is on the path of seeing. So the path of seeing and the path of meditation, path of accumulation, path of preparation, they what they are. You accumulate merit, you prepare. Then you really start getting, you become an Arya. You carry the Dharma jewel once you reach the path of seeing. Because that's when you realize ultimate phenomena. That's when you realize emptiness. Previously we're just preparing for that. So now is the stage when you realize emptiness directly. And at that stage, you enter the first bhumi. And from then onwards, you go through the path of seeing and through the path of meditation. And the path of seeing refers to the first bhumi. And then the path of meditation refers to the second to the 10th bhumi. So you basically have 9 levels of the path of meditation.